Hello and welcome to another episode of the devlog of Runes of Aereal. So let me show you what I've been up to. An important change I have to note is that there is a few more JSON files attached to the project here. And there are three important ones, being the mission types, the mission type strings, and the action strings. So let me just look into the mission types here. And the idea is that as we go along on the map, let me show you the map here. We start from here at the bottom left, and as we go along the map, we're going to encounter missions, let's say. And a mission can be a battle, or going into a city, or upgrading a card, or quite a few options is going to be in the game. And what options there are is defined actually in this mission type JSON file. And the JSON file is actually a combination of a mission type and within that mission type one or more action types. So let's see here, for example, the mission type upgrade query is a mission where there's three possibilities for the user. The first possibility, the first action really is to upgrade the character, the second is to upgrade the card, and the third is just to continue. So these are, at the moment, the ones that I've come up with. Quite a few here. So in the future I'm going to be implementing them all. The most easy one, for example, here is just continue. The continue mission type has only one action, and it's just called continue. So the idea is when the island is first shown, that every point here, these are called map points. You can see them here in the map points family, where you've got a mission point, which is one of these little spheres, and there's a city point here. Those are also points that the user can go to and that hold a typical a mission. It actually holds a mission. So how does it work? Actually, there is a procedure I'm going to show you in a minute that will run through all of the map points and assign them a mission type. And it will do that according to a probability table, which is being generated at runtime. And in order to show the user what the mission type is and what the options are, both the mission types and the actions are attached to strings. So here we have the mission type string. For the mission type continue, there are at the moment three possibilities. So at runtime, when the mission type is shown, these possibilities here will be shown. So for some mission type, if the mission type of a certain map point is determined to be continue, then there's three possibilities of the user showing the mission type. Nothing to see here, there's nothing in this place, etc. So there are, at the moment, there are only three options. In the future, there might be many more options. For the most of them, I've really entered only one option, but it is my plan to in the future add more possibilities for each of these mission types. So for the action strings, all actions also have possible strings. For continue, for example, be on your way, just move on, continue your path, etc. So for each of those actions, again, we've got a possible string. So if we go to this island, attached to the island, there is a generic island event sheet. If you go to that event sheet, you can see that on start of layout, we're going to generate map points. This is a function, which is also here in this event sheet. This one here. So it's generated at start of layout, and what we're going to do really is we're going to generate this this map data once it's stored. It's not going to be re-evaluated again. So it's not every time different when the game is being saved and the user exits the game and later on it comes back to the game. It doesn't need to be totally new. It can be the same generated map actually, but in order to do that, we need to save that map data as well. So in order to save that map data, I've created a dictionary called map data here. And when we generate the map points, the first thing we check is if the map data is empty or not. And if it's empty, we just pick all of the map points, and for each of those map points, we go and determine the mission type, determine all of the parameters for that mission type, and save it into the map data. And when the game is saved, of course the map data is saved along with the game, and the map is has only generated once. So how does it work? Actually, I've added to the map points here, I've added an extra instance variable called probability table. And the probability table is actually a link to the probability table here. Mission type map, here mission type city entry, those are the probability tables. This one is different too. Mission type continue force, and as the name already denotes, in this probability table there will only be the option for one single mission type, being continue. So here in the AI event sheet, you can see that I've added constants for both the mission types as well as the action types. Those are constants, so they can be referred to in the code. And also in the create probabilities table, where I've added, by the way, a check where if the probability tables are already created, we don't recreate them again. So the first thing we do is we check if this boolean, it's actually a number, but I don't like to use booleans. I like to use numbers set to 0 and 1. So we first check if this is set to 0, and if it's set to 0, the first thing we do is we set it to 1, so it's not done again. And here at the bottom of these probability tables, you'll see that there is a mission type called mission type map, and then we add all of the possible mission types that can be assigned to a map in a mission type map. Now for cities, it's something entirely different. Here we have other options to do. Mission type city entry is something else. That's when we go into the city, or we want to go into the city with we're presented with a choice, or we have to go, or we are presented with the choice to pay a cost or not, to battle or not, etc. So those are different probability tables, each for a mission type, essentially. And the idea is that each of those map points gets assigned a probability table. So when we generate the map data, we're going to check this probability table and pick one from that probability table. Now, to make my life a little bit easier, and because we are only integrating right now the battle interface, so when we go from this map interface towards a battle, what I've done is just made the weight of this mission type battle force to 10,000, so it's pretty much always going to determine the mission type battle force. And if you see here in the mission type battle force, it should be around here somewhere. Battle force, here we are. Then the only action available is the battle option. So this is exactly what it's going to do. And let me show you then what that generate map points function does further. So the first thing we do is we set the probability table of that map points, and then we set a local string variable called mission type to the advanced random weighted option. And then we create a temporary JSON object. Especially for that, I've created an object type called temp.json, and we create it just on the layer data. And what we do is we pick the last created temp.json, and we set the mission type to mission type, the mission type property of the JSON to mission type. We set the description, which is one of the random items here in the mission type strings. And then what we do is we go through the different options of the mission types array. So in the mission types, if you remember, you have up to 3 different options, 1, 2, or 3, and we just loop through them. We just loop through them from mission types from 0 to the array size here, And then what we do is we accordingly we set option 1, option 3, option 2, option 3 to the different actions and also the strings attached to them. So that's one of those strings here in the action strings. So essentially, what we want to do also next to that is, if the action type is battle, we also want to create a combat definition. So what we do here, once we initialize it to 0, of course, create combat definition. Here we do that by setting this local variable initialized to 0. And once one of those mission type options is a battle, then we set that flag. And if the flag is set, the first thing we do is we set the advanced random probability table to combat definitions. So we pick one of the combat definitions which is stored in the combat definitions JSON file. And then we loop through that 1 to 4, and then we check if in that combat definition the enemy type is different from none. Then we need to spawn an enemy, and we add that enemy to the temporary JSON. And the only thing we do is, in the map data dictionary, we just add the key of the unique ID of the map points, and we just paste the temp JSON compact string in there. So let's see what that looks like actually. I'm going to debug this layout, and now on start of layout it will have been generated. And now if we go and search for the map data, here you can see that all of those items here have been generated. And you can also see that all of these battle force mission type, the description is go fight, the first option is battle, the option description is that, and then there's this total combat definition here. So every one of those has been generated and has been added here in this dictionary. That's great. And then if you see here, whenever we click the map point, whenever we click a map point, we show the mission details. And the mission details, the UID here is this map point UID. And this is what we're getting in here. Never mind these two parameters, it's just to be factored out because that's an old logic I used to do, and we're going to factor that out in the future. So what we're doing here is we pick the map point, we create a temporary object, we parse the JSON of the map data in the temporary object, and then we check for every option on the menu. And then what's that? This is this here. So there are three different options here. You can see that option 1, 2, and 3. So these three options are assigned here. We loop through them. We pick the first one, we pick the second one, we pick the third one. Then we see if it has option 1. If the temp JSON has option 1, then we make it visible. And if it doesn't, we make it invisible. And if it does, we just set the text to the option 1 description or option 2 description, etc. And we set the action to the first option. So that's when we show the mission details. And then also when we click a map point, we show these mission details. And then when we click the menu button, which is one of those options really, we check if the action is action type battle, which is the only one which is implemented right now. What we're going to do is we yet again are going to create this temp JSON, and we're going to parse out that combat definition. We're going to set the combat definition here, the current combat definitions, which is taken into account whenever the battle starts. And then we're going to fade in this fade layer, which also exists in the sandbox. For example, we can fade to black, we show a hint, and then the battle effectively starts. And it's done using this timer object. We tween fade as a value from 0 to 1. And then there's here, on every tick, we just tween the fade. We set a layer opacity of the fade layer here. And we set controls, which doesn't exist really. It's just a copy-paste error. So we can just move that out. So that's it. Let's see. So by the way, on tween finished, we set the generic text opacity of the hint here, and what we do is whenever the opacity is finished, we set the game mode to game mode map, and we go to battle. So the game mode here is a variable which is used in the game when battling to make distinction between what type of game we are playing. We can be coming from the sandbox, we can be going from debug mode, or we can be coming from the map here, which is generally the game mode which will be used when the game is played. So let's test that. So now the generate map points will have run. Every map point will have gotten an entry in the map data dictionary. We can click one of the options where we can go to. So this is the current point. The flashing green ones here are the map points we can go towards. And as we've set the probability table weight to 10,000, I'm practically sure it's going to be battle. And indeed, here we see the mission type string go fight, because it's been determined that it's battle force. And one of the battle force mission type strings is go fight. And the mission type battle force has only one option, so that means there's only one button visible here. This time for combat is a string that denotes the combat here, and we can just click, and what happens is the fade action happens. You can see the tip coming, and then we start the combat definition here. So basically that's it. That's what I've been implementing. As always, please like, please subscribe, and if you want the full code for this full project, please support me on my Patreon page. The link is in the description. Bye-bye.